Hello, I am Ellie, and I have wanted to tell you what I'm about to say for the longest time, but I've had this excuse, which has been that I've wanted to wait until I'm fully qualified. But a few months ago, my boyfriend, who's now my husband, said to me, Ellie, there are people struggling with disordered eating right now that probably wouldn't be struggling if they had heard what you had to say. And, I was so angry at him because how do I reject that? So a few months later, welcome to my YouTube channel. If you have struggled with any type of disordered eating before, you've probably heard it said in recovery circles that eating disorders are never something that you really get over, you just learn to live with them. I had a friend recently say this to me and it broke my heart for her because I am an exception. I had a full-blown, life-consuming, life-destroying, addictive, cyclical eating disorder and for over 10 years, and I recovered. And I don't just mean like quit my disordered eating patterns but secretly continued to obsess over my body, the way it looked and my weight. No, I mean like completely recovered to the extent that I don't obsess about my food choices or my body composition. Sometimes I forget to weigh myself. My mood and how I feel about myself isn't dictated by whether I've been quote unquote good or bad with my eating behaviors. I don't panic if my weight fluctuates. I'm here to tell you that full recovery is a possibility. I truly believe that, and I'm going to tell you everything that I have learned. Although my story might resonate most with those who have experienced binge eating disorder or bulimia, my message is really for anyone who is exhausted by weight cycling, for anyone who's fed up with dieting, and also just fed up feeling dissatisfied and hatred toward their own body. My message is for anyone who wants to feel just a little less obsessed with food and their body in general. My message is that it is possible to live the most free, fun, and unobsessed life, one that isn't consumed by calorie counting or the relentless pursuit of the ever unattainable cultural body ideals, trying to fit your unique body into that. But you can live a life where you get to actually use and enjoy your body for all its potential. You actually get to live and enjoy life, all the while being unobsessed and still maintaining a level of health and vibrancy. I have been really afraid of using my voice because honestly, I've been afraid of what certain people or certain groups of people will think of me. But the truth is that it took me too long to recover because it took me too long to hear the truth. And, I think about every person right now who is struggling with the messiness of an eating disorder, from the young woman going through puberty to the woman going through menopause, and of course the less talked about men who struggle with this too. Struggling with this addictive cycle that they just feel like they can't get out of, and there's so much shame around it. And I feel a responsibility to share the things that have helped me. And not only that, but to share the insanely exciting news that full recovery is possible. Full recovery from binge eating disorder, bulimia, cyclical dieting, and body hatred. It is possible. 8 years on, I am completely recovered, and I can't believe that I was that girl who struggled with all those things. It actually feels like a lifetime ago because I've experienced such joyous recovery. So yeah, this channel is going out to anybody who has ever struggled with body hatred or disordered eating, and also anyone who has just lost hope in recovery in general, or maybe even the thought of living a normal life, which is really sad. This channel is going out to you. I'm going to tell you my story. I disowned my body from as early as I can remember. I will spare you all the details, but I just remember being a sporty kid, and going through puberty absolutely freaked me out, guys. I was a slim, sporty kid, and all of a sudden I had curves, I was growing breasts, I was hungry all the time, and I just didn't know what was happening. And I had read in a magazine that the way to keep your body slim was to calorie count. And so this is what I did, and I lost weight, and people complimented me on it. And to be honest with you, at that time it felt good. And this was the time probably I started to lie to my parents as well. I remember my beautiful mum used to pack me peanut butter sandwiches for school. She knew they were my favorite food. So I would pick up mum's lunch off the counter, and then as soon as I got to school, I would throw it in the bin. And so I had these long periods of restriction during high school, but it never developed into a full-blown eating disorder. My dream was to do music theatre when I finished high school, and I got accepted into a full-time dance school. So during the period leading up to full-time dance, I was training hard to get my body ready. And this was the first time I started to restrict my food for multiple days at a time. And initially this felt very empowering to me. I really felt in control. But I remember one day I got so hungry that I allowed myself to have a food that I normally would have considered naughty. And I started eating this food, and I remember I just didn't stop, and it turned into a binge. And this freaked me out. I felt pretty disgusted with myself, and so I thought, okay, I'm just going to not eat for 2 days, and we'll call it even. So I didn't eat for the next couple of days. What happened was I got really hungry, and it happened again. And this time I felt so much shame that I just had the urge to get rid of the food. And I had remembered learning about bulimia in a high school project. And at that time I had thought bulimia was just such a strange disorder, but it had stuck in my head. And so after this particular binge, I thought, okay, well, just this once, I'm just going to try getting rid of this food, but I'm never going to become one of those girls who has this strange disorder. But then, of course, what happened was I was still restricting, so I would binge, and occasionally I would purge my food as well. So when I started full-time dance, I was still casually being bulimic, I would say. And so I felt that the eating disorder was still under my control. It was something that was temporary. I loved the dance school. I was getting to do what I loved every day, to sing, act, and dance. But unfortunately, in that environment, the message was very clear that if you took your success as a performer seriously, then that meant that you took your body composition seriously. And I took it very seriously. I so desperately wanted to be a full-time paid performer. And, unfortunately, looking back, I genuinely subscribed to the idea that the key to my success was the composition of my body, which is so sad looking back, because actually the key to my success was to work consistently on my discipline. And, I don't blame that dance school or the teachers there. I love them. I think that pressure was a product of the time, and the industry is changing so much now. You see all shapes and sizes represented in the dance industry, which I love. I think that's the best. But at the time, I became very obsessive over my body and food. So it started to consume every ounce of my thinking. I remember that I wasn't rehearsing well because I was so obsessed over what I had eaten or what I hadn't eaten or what I was going to eat. And I also simply wasn't rehearsing well because I just didn't have enough calories and nutrition in my diet for the amount of dance and exercise that I was doing. So the cycle continued, and I remember that the binge eating and the purging became so frequent that it started to get scary to me. Okay, so this is really exposing. I mean, really exposing. It hurts my pride to tell you this. But the reason I'm telling you is because, again, I think of that person struggling with binge eating disorder or bulimia right now, who feels alone in the shame and sometimes the irrationality of binge eating. That is why I'm telling you this story, to know that you're not alone. So yes, the binge eating started to become more frequent, and I started to miss classes and show up late to school. I remember this one particular morning, stopping at a bakery on the way to the studio, and I purchased this whole cake. It was like a tray of cake. It was big. And anyway, I sat on the floor of my car and I ate this cake. And the reason I sat on the floor of my car was just so that bypassers couldn't see me. And I just remember sitting on the ground in my car and just bawling my eyes out as I was eating this cake. Because if you've ever had binge eating disorder before, you know that actually nothing about it is pleasurable. You just feel out of control and you can't stop eating. So I ate this whole cake, and I remember just sitting there after and genuinely feeling like I had lost my dignity. And that is a horrible feeling. And again, you will know that feeling if you've struggled with binge eating disorder. At the beginning of the second year of training, things were getting worse and the eating disorder was getting more out of control. I remember one particular morning having a binge, and this binge was particularly large. And I remember that I had trouble getting up this binge. And so I drove myself to a remote park, and I ran laps around this park until I was able to make myself throw up. And I remember doing that multiple times until I felt convinced that I had gotten rid of everything that I had eaten. And, I sat in the bushes after that, and I was a complete mess. Honestly, I was a mess. And I remember that was the first time I acknowledged that I wasn't well and that I really needed help. And so I remember calling my parents and being honest to them about what was going on. My mum and dad drove straight to Sydney. We had a meeting with the coordinators of the dance school, and it was decided that it would be the best thing for me to move home and start my recovery. One of the worst days of my life. Honestly, I felt like my dream had just been snatched out of my hands. So I moved home to recover, and what I thought would take me 6 months took me 4 years. And to be honest, recovery, even more than when I intentionally had the eating disorder, recovery is some of my most painful memories. And the reason for that is because, one, I desperately wanted to recover quickly so that I could go back to pursuing my dream. But the second reason it was painful is that I was so desperate to recover, and I tried so many conventional things that had worked for other people, and I couldn't get out of this cycle. It became apparent really quickly that I was very deep in my eating disorder, and my family was so devoted to helping me recover. I remember that I used to binge on full tubs of ice cream, and I would, being honest with you, I would make myself throw up to where I had eaten from to make sure that I had gotten rid of all the ice cream, and so that my family wouldn't see me disposing of what I had purged, I would hide tubs of ice cream in my room overnight. I would put my alarm on to get up early in the morning, and I would dispose of the vomit before anyone saw me. And that's a really hectic story, but I tell you that to show you that, like, bulimia and binge eating disorder are really serious, and they actually can make you do the most irrational things. I tried many conventional treatments during my recovery, which unfortunately did not work for me. I was in a constant cycle of recovery and relapse. Now, I just want to be clear that I am the first person to back evidence-based treatments. I think they are wonderful. They work for a lot of people. This is just my experience. But if you are genuinely struggling with disordered eating or an eating disorder, please go and seek the help of a medical professional and or a psychologist. Evidence-based treatments work for so many people. This is just my experience. So some of the things that I was encouraged to do in my recovery included following a diet plan, having an accountability partner, so being honest to someone about everything that I was eating, cutting out sugars, cutting out certain food groups. One health professional told me that if I quit purging, then inevitably my binge eating would stop. And so I quit purging, but then actually I continued binge eating and I started to put on weight, and this was my worst fear. Another health professional told me that the reason that I binged was to cope with my negative emotions or to cope with anxiety. I worked on myself so intentionally for 4 years trying to address these negative emotions and work on my anxiety, and those things got better in my life, but unfortunately the binge eating still continued. And this was insanely frustrating to me. I do want to say though, there were many helpful tools that I did learn in recovery, and I really can't wait to share them with you in upcoming videos. They're tools that I still use today to maintain my recovery and also a good relationship with my body and with food. Now, I am a horrible person for this, but I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger. I'm so sorry. The reason is because I want to keep these videos short, but I promise you that it has a good ending. And next week, I'm going to tell you exactly how I recovered. I will break it down for you. And I promise to tell you the exact technique I used to stop my binging forever. And also, I'm just really excited for upcoming videos with you guys, showing you what it looks like to live recovered. I remember when I was in the depths of my eating disorder, scouring the internet for answers to recovery and answers to stop the cycle of binge eating and how to respect your body. And that was something I really missed at the time. I didn't really have a mentor that I could look up to who I had felt like had been through the exact messiness of bulimia that I had, but looked like they had completely recovered. So I hope to offer that even to just one person to help you in your recovery. And of course, I can't go without saying that if this is a real issue for you or you think it might be, please go and seek help. Seek the help of a GP or a medical professional, I promise you this is the most precious step in your recovery, is the first step of telling somebody, seeking help. You are going to make it through. My brother-in-law is in the room right now, and he won't let me go without telling you guys to like and subscribe. It feels so awkward to me, I know. Like, subscribe. I'm 31, that's why I'm still putting my thumbs up. I was born in 1993. But thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, look forward to sharing more with you.